Welcome to the Impact Interview episode of Connecting Green Hydrogen Europe 2024. My name is Molly Huang, Head of Content at Leader Associates. And today we are very excited to engage a conversation with Mr. Pho Duc, CTO of Smartenergy. Thank you so much.
Pleasure to be here. And introduce myself. Smartenergy is a company which is an investment firm, private investment firm from Switzerland. We have markets in Europe, but also engaging now into the Middle East, Middle America, South America. We combine a bit of development skills and the whole value chains with our capabilities to take own decision into projects, to invest into opportunities. Our history always has been into renewable assets, only renewable side, energy. And since 2020, January, we decided strategically we go for hydrogen because we saw this is the missing link to full decarbonize. We saw the price variations in the electricity market that this would give the risking of projects even. And since 2 years also, we focus a lot into the SAF direction for aviation, besides also maritime and the industry approach. Myself, with my organization as a CTO, I'm not only following the technology side of hydrogen and all activities we have, but also policy, public funding, public affairs, because such a market needs to be developed. That's why we engaged a lot into creating a market, promoting the opportunity of hydrogen. And well, myself, I started the whole hydrogen business in the company.
Yes, you cover a lot of important positions across the hydrogen value chain, from policy markets to also technology, as well as end-use applications, etc. So from a high-level perspective, what is your view on the current hydrogen market status quo?
Yeah, well, the one positive thing is hydrogen is existing. 100 million tons per year, roughly, or 10 million tons in Europe, is used today in a rather captive market. So this market is there, and this gives us the opportunity that there is experience already. So it's not just new. On the other hand, it hasn't been an open market, not a traded market. It hasn't been scaled, and right now Europe wants to double the amount, or even also the world kind of wants to double with new applications of hydrogen. So this is a bit more in the early stage, I would say. In fact, in the early stage, there's new applications, and actually this kind of early stage comes a lot from the offtake inside. The new applications, which are not those of today, refineries, chemical, which use hydrogen today, but those who are new, the steel or ceramic, cement, ammonia, e-ammonia, renewable fuels, non-biological origin, all those need to develop the applications. So it's both to generate all that amount of hydrogen and derivatives, but also the offtake inside to adapt the processes. So this is all a bit in the early stage, and that's why today you cannot approach a market by having a market-based approach where the one does the generation, the other one does the offtake, and there is a market in between. But you need to have an ecosystem set up for the project. So each individual project needs to care for the total value chain, all the boundaries and the financing and the debt and everything needs to be cared for at this moment. There is initiatives, so now we talk about policy, to bridge the gap in the meantime, like H2 bank, H2 auction, CFD contracts to help this market creation, which after a while, and we're talking rather 10 years and more, when this hydrogen market really develops. And then the systematic and the mechanisms will be different. But today, we need a very nicely designed project and very good project partners.
Yes, and here I have a billion question for you. So to commercialize it, any specific business model or strategy that Smartenergy is currently approaching?
Well, we've been obviously also learning. We started with hydrogen projects, which even went into a specific case in Portugal, which right now is finally happening, gas grid injection. However, we had to refocus on our pipeline, which are the projects which have an offtake with a willingness to pay the price difference, besides public funding, which helps, but it cannot close the full gap. So our strategy in Smartenergy has to be restructured and finding the projects we focus first. And we have the so-called AIM strategy, aviation, industry, and maritime. Why? All of these three have regulatory demand. Right now in the conference, I had a pleasure to talk specifically about the aviation. Is the aviation mandate of quotas in Europe. And the good thing somehow is that if you don't fulfill the quotas, there is a penalty. Well, penalty is not so nice, obviously, but the good thing about it is that to give a clarity, an impulse to the market that you need to pay the price. So if you engage early, if you scale up early, the price will be lower. And if you don't fulfill your quota, you have to pay double the difference as a penalty. So somehow, very often I have the discussion, is the willingness to pay good enough? And in this case, it's not even a willingness to pay, it's a must pay. Must pay, because if you don't pay it, you will pay double. The shipping industry, similar, you have quotas of decarbonizing, and in the further segment of industry, you have this 42% by 2030, hydrogen use should be decarbonized. So also here you have strong incentives, and our projects are related to that to make the business case work. Yeah, that's how we try to commercialize right now.
Yes, penalty, in other words, is incentives.
Yes, it's incentives helping, but also the must do, the need to act. So the incentives will not bridge, as said, fully the gap. So these industries will have to pay a certain price. In the end, the end customer, yes, they will pay the price. The case is, are they ready to pay the price? And it needs to be balanced nicely. There's some examples in industry like green steel. If you have a car which is 30,000 euro, the steel amount inside, if it gets green, the increase may be just by a few percent. Yeah, like 300 euro. 1% or a little more. But this difference, the customers, by also analysis, are ready to pay because the whole car price is much bigger. Or if you look into aviations, the ticket price. How much will the ticket price really increase? Well, there's incentives. It will increase, but not so bad. And on the aviation side, by the way, besides the regulatory demand, you also have the voluntary demand. Meaning today already the decarbonization option is offered to you. The share in private persons is quite low, but companies, by their obligations, start to have in their travel policy more and more that the passengers, business travelers need to click the option of decarbonization, which is paying an additional price. So finding these segments where not only an incentive, but also the willingness to really pay the price for it is there, and the price can be paid. These are the ones to start with.
Yes, and projects are normally supported by 4 pillars: policy, investment, finance, and technology. I want to touch upon the later part, finance and technology. Do you think there are challenges?
Actually, yes. It would be too easy if it would be no challenges. And we actually, especially these days, the discussion about the role of hydrogen and how much hydrogen and derivatives, we shouldn't forget the derivatives, can make it. And well, the one challenge, let's say, is the transport logistics side of it. And hydrogen, we know, is quite a complex thing to transport. And here the derivatives play a major role in the beginning that if you look into the large-scale projects, which especially in Middle East, Australia, Chile, and others announced, they make use of carriers which are established market, like ammonia, or the methanol for the shipping industry. These are markets where you de-risk on that side. Okay, that's on the off-taking transport side. Then technology on the generation of hydrogen. The good news, as I said before, there is megawatt, gigawatt experience already in the past, but right now the scaling on a broad level and the scaling of new technologies besides the alkaline, because the alkaline alkali is the one, and the chlorine that has a lot of experience, but now the PEM and others like AD or the solid oxide, these are early stage, and actually the experiences are being made. So somebody promising, oh, it's easy plug and play and it will just work. It's not really the case, especially because those need now to be operated in a more flexible way. Obviously, you do try a system design where you reduce the intermittency effect of renewables, but still you have some. And so far, these electrolyzers always were operated in a stable mode. And we realized that these first projects really have some learnings to do. Good news about it, nothing which cannot be overcome and done by learning. Learning will be now very fast. So from the technology side, solutions are there. I think great opportunity as a solid oxide at some point, because a lot of the industry has the heat, which with solid oxide is used, and then you can get this efficiency boost from, let's say, roughly 60 to around 80%. So I see this, although it's still a bit less mature technology, I see great opportunities for that to come. Right now, a big project, however, mostly based on a more mature technology. Financing, well, it's a thing. What I learned very early in my career, when somebody tried to explain me how to make a project work by the banks, and just said, okay, make sure I get my money back. Okay, how can I make sure they get their money back? And they don't like any risk usually. And here the bankability topic, well, we can go a bit to history. Solar has had the same thing. When I started in solar 15 years ago, we were exactly in the same position. At that time, we had to make predictions on the degradation, for example, which were put in the business case, which were conservative. And still we managed to make the project. And today we realize, oh, degradation was much less. So we managed to build up trust, and the banks realize, wow, that's a good business. So today it's mature technology. Hydrogen, we have to go to the same things. We need to make credible boundaries, which it cannot be exaggerated low, but it needs to be reasonable safety margin and make projects work with that. With that, the banks get trust, or the investors get trust, and it will get going. So it's a bit of an approach we need to do. But maybe one additional comment on the de-risking. Here I see for the hydrogen economy, still government policy also in the lead, because different from the main motivation of PV at that time, we have a CO2 issue which has developed so fast that we cannot just let the market and maturity develop at its own pace. If we really take it serious that the climate agreement, Paris 1.5 degree, which anyway is kind of out of reach, but if we take this serious, policy needs to speed up the process. So besides incentives, CapEx, OpEx, etc., I think the risking mechanisms, so taking guarantees for projects. So it's not even giving the money, but somehow backing up and de-risking the projects is a good mechanism where, well, sub-projects may need this safety margin, but you can make many more projects fly without even putting funding inside. I think this is a big responsibility of governments in the world.
Speaking of this, there were a lot of conversations regarding the first pilot auction by the European Hydrogen Bank.
Yeah.
It demonstrated that we don't really need that many subsidies to get the projects going. So what is your comment?
Well, first of all, unluckily, I need to contradict you a little bit. This makes, I think, the discussion interesting. And I had also similar discussion with the top leaders in the European policy. While the result of the auction was interesting, because it was the bids were which were with the winning bids, the 7 winning bids were below €0.5 per kilogram. Which was surprising, because by calculation, we got rather for this application, well, €1, €1.50 maybe. And the question is, why did this happen? And obviously, these projects, only with that, don't get, I think, by our calculations, a business case which is attractive to investors to invest into. So there's different other mechanisms and incentives to do such projects, but it's not sufficient to make the whole market fly. So if we would say right now, this is the level we go in future, many projects wouldn't continue. And as I said, the segments are important. There's some lower hanging fruits on the refineries, but even those, it's marginal chemical industry and stuff. But we also have the high temp processes. High temp processes, 30% of the CO2 emissions or even more. If we don't tackle them and let the market be ready in 20 years, for that, we will not hit decarbonization targets, meaning this €0.5 is kind of nice for the first round. The second round, which is announced with 1.2 billion now, a bit less than we expected, and which kind of has one bucket now, which is on the shipping industry to separate. I think we will even have to go further and understand that there is different segments with different support needs. And I say, come back to the target, the CO2 reductions. If we take it serious that this must be fast, we cannot wait. So we need buckets, also high temp processes to be treated different than refinery, be treated. So I think a bit more specific auctions need to take place to get the whole segments which can be addressed by hydrogen, hard to make sectors, and the derivatives, not to forget. Always I talk hydrogen, but I mean really all e-ammonia, e-methanol, the sub-fuels, e-sub-fuels. So all that needs this support, and we should expect that €0.5 only is not sufficient. But I expect actually, again, very aggressive bidding. So I'm not naive. That will be aggressive again.
Yes, we can see a great future in front of hydrogen, but in the meantime, we are time conscious. We hope to enable faster growth. And if you can have one recommendation for the industry peers, what would be your recommendation in one word? In
One word.
sentence,
Well,
let's
one
say.
sentence. One sentence is my recommendation is really we need entrepreneurial spirit and do first projects, because the learning curve starts when you do the things. So while I mentioned that for aviation has a great incentive and there is things to do, but anywhere we need entrepreneurs, both in the governmental but industry side, working together and doing first projects, and then you learn it, and then you will be better.
Let's do it by doing.
Yeah.
And with that, I thank you once again for joining this interview.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.